At the hospital where she works, everyone calls her the ninja nurse, not to her face, behind her back, in the break room, in the parking garage, at 6 a.m., because that's the only way to describe a woman who wraps a scarf around her entire head, adds a surgical mask over that, and finishes the look with sunglasses so dark you can't find her eyes. Every shift, every hallway, every single day for the last 6 months. The older nurses think she's just modest, religious, maybe. They nod at her with something like respect. But the ones who've worked with her longer know better. They remember what she used to look like. Full makeup, hair done. A woman who used to love the camera. Something changed her almost overnight. And whatever it was, she still hasn't told a single person at that hospital the truth. She's about to tell you instead. She's been a night shift ER nurse for 7 years at a hospital called A Nightingale. It's funded entirely by a corporate consultancy firm as part of their charity work, which means the hospital never charges a patient a single dollar. No insurance, no bill, nothing, which sounds like a good thing, and in a lot of ways it is. But it also means the hospital pulls in the poorest, most desperate people in the city. People with nowhere else to go and nothing to offer except their gratitude. Florence Nightingale's name is everywhere in that building. Posters, orientation speeches, the employee handbook. Management leans on her legacy hard, and it works, because you don't complain about extra, unpaid duties when a portrait of the most famous nurse in history is staring down at you from the wall. One of those extra duties falls on her shoulders almost every week. When a patient dies with no ID and no family to call, the nurses have to go through the body's belongings, look for a wallet, a phone, anything with a name on it. They've run out of placeholder names. Too many John Does and Jane Does over the years. So the staff started getting creative. A man found carrying a book on judo got nicknamed Joe Doe. Dark humor, but it's how people survive a job that hands them a dead stranger every few nights. She'd made peace with all of it. The job, the duties nobody signs up for, the long dark hours where the hospital seems to exhale and hold its breath at the same time. Then one of those ordinary nights brought in a patient unlike anything she'd ever treated. And that patient is the reason she doesn't show her face anymore. 2 men carried him through the ER doors. Middle-aged, malnourished, a torn jacket over dirty white pants. His chest had a bluish tint spreading out from the center, and his eyes weren't just bloodshot. They were blue, deep, wrong, like ink spreading through water. Foam gathered at the corner of his mouth. His fingers were curled inward on both hands, locked in place, and no amount of gentle pressure could straighten them. He was gasping. His whole chest worked for air, but no sound came out. And every 30 seconds, his body jolted. Not a seizure, not a tremor. Something else entirely. She'd never seen this combination of symptoms in 7 years on the job. Not once. Half an hour in, Dr. Cyrus Malla walked into the room. The chief physician almost never showed up during night shifts, but he said he'd been in the area and wanted to check in. He stood at the foot of the bed, calm, writing notes, directing the team with a kind of quiet authority she'd always admired. The patient died just under 2 hours later. Dr. Malla wrote the death certificate himself, cardiorespiratory failure due to idiopathic cyanotic heart disease. When she mentioned how strange the symptoms had looked, he explained it away easily. Cyanosis, oxygen deprivation, years of poor nutrition producing a dramatic presentation. It made sense once you knew what you were looking at, he said. She believed him. She thanked him and went back to work. The two men who'd brought the patient in knew nothing about him. No ID, no phone, nothing to go on. She checked his jacket one last time before closing it up. And that's when she felt something in the inside pocket. A crumpled Polaroid. She unfolded it under the fluorescent light. It was her, in her bathroom, brushing her hair, completely unaware, photographed through her own window. On the back, in messy handwriting, looks different in real and real. How come? Need answers. Her hands started shaking before she even registered it. She looked down the corridor. Patients being wheeled past, colleagues talking. Everything completely normal, completely indifferent to the photograph in her hand. A photograph of her, taken through a window she'd never once thought to cover. She told no one. She finished her shift. She went home and sat on her bed with every light in the apartment on, reading those two lines over and over. Going to the police wasn't really an option where she lives. She knew exactly how that would go. And even if she tried, what did she actually have? A photo pulled from a dead man's pocket. No name, no face, no suspect. Cameras and a new apartment weren't options either. Every dollar she made above basic living expenses went toward her family. A brother in college, a mother in cancer treatment, a father who was quadriplegic and needed round-the-clock paid care. She was the only income keeping all three of them afloat. So she checked her locks obsessively instead and started sleeping better at the hospital than she ever could at home. 2 nights later, a second patient came in with the exact same symptoms. Blue chest, blue eyes, curled fingers, silent gasping. A woman this time, found collapsed on the pavement by a waiter walking home from his shift. Dr. Mala appeared again, right on schedule. She watched him this time, watched him click a stopwatch on his smartwatch the second the monitors flatlined. 1 hour, 53 minutes. Same cause of death on the certificate. Same offer to write it himself. Tucked in the woman's clothing was another Polaroid. Her kitchen this time, taken from outside. Her back turned to the camera. The note on the back read, "The nose is the first one to catch attention. The nose looks smart. That nose knows stuff. Nose knows. Nose knows. Ha 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 ha." It kept happening. Every 2 or 3 days, another patient with the same impossible symptoms. Dr. Mala stopped bothering to explain why he happened to be there. She overheard him mention a surge in cyanotic heart disease cases across the city, something he wanted to look into properly, with the ER nurses helping as data collectors. He looked right at her when he said it. A third Polaroid showed her checking her own front door from the outside, taken through the gap under it, or maybe the mail slot. She still doesn't know. The note said, "Have you seen how a man dies for the sake of your pretty eyes? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Y-E-S. Y-O-U-D-O. A fourth showed her waiting for the hospital bus in broad daylight, surrounded by people. Completely unaware, someone was photographing her from across the street. The note just said lips 14 times. She counted. By the 5th patient, she'd stopped going home entirely. 2 days straight at the hospital, sleeping in the nurse's room, eating in the cafeteria, never stepping outside. Her coworkers assumed she was picking up extra shifts for the money. She let them believe it. The 5th Polaroid was taken inside the ER while she dozed off in a chair between patients. He'd been standing a few feet away from her, inside a working hospital, and photographed her sleeping without a single person noticing. That was the one that broke her. She caught Dr. Mala on his way out that night and tried to explain everything. He cut her off before she finished. Not his department, he said, and handed her a number for the hospital's code of conduct hotline. She called it at 2:30 in the morning. A man picked up, calm and warm, the kind of voice trained specifically to make people feel heard. The call lasted 16 minutes. Most of it was her, barely coherent, getting everything out in whatever order it came. He didn't interrupt once. When she finally stopped talking, all he said was, "HR block, top floor. I'll be there in an hour." She went anyway. 3 in the morning, and the HR block was completely dark except for one office at the end of the hall. He introduced himself as Rafiq, younger than she expected, calm in a way that felt rehearsed. His staff badge marked him as an employee of the parent company, not the hospital itself. He looked at every Polaroid for 5 full minutes without saying a word. Then he asked her to describe the patient's symptoms. She started to answer, and he finished the sentence for her. Fingers curled inward, foaming at the mouth, gasping without sound, full body convulsions. She stopped cold. "But how did you?" He asked if there was anything else about the patients she wanted to mention. She mentioned the ages, mid-40s to 50. He finished that too, and added something she never told him. All of them came from the same slum in the northern part of the city. She never gave him that detail. Nobody at the hospital even had that information, as far as she knew. He told her to get some sleep. Her problem would be handled, he said. Then he smiled and walked out like he had somewhere far more important to be. For a month, it actually worked. No more Polaroids. The strange patients kept coming, but rarely, and Dr. Mala quietly routed them to a different block, one that wasn't hers. She'd catch glimpses of him from a distance, stopwatch in hand, but he stopped looking her way when he did it. She started sleeping at home again. She started feeling like herself. She wishes that was where the story ended. It was the holiday season, so the hospital was running on a skeleton crew. Her block was quiet that night, just her and a duty doctor who kept yawning. Nothing critical in any of the beds. The kind of shift that feels like the building itself is finally breathing out. The doctor stepped away for coffee a little after midnight and didn't come back right away. She was thinking about doing the same when the ER doors slammed open. Something that used to be a man stumbled inside, shirtless, jeans stiff with dried blood drooling from the corner of his mouth. His chest heaved with every breath, the effort of it dragging across his whole rib cage. The sound coming out of him wasn't a word. It wasn't even close to human. His eyes were the wrong color, Not red. Green. A flat, deep, impossible green. And the same green spread across his chest in a pulsing patch. Veins visible beneath the skin, tracing straight toward the outline of a heart she could see beating through his own skin. His fingers twitched open and shut with every step. He looked like he was about to collapse with every movement. He never did. And through all of it, drool and growling and that horrible green light under his skin, he was smiling at her. Real and real, he said. Different, indeed. Wanted answers. I just wanted some damn answers. She screamed before she even decided to. Already backing away. Already reaching for anything. He stopped moving. Is that fear? He asked. Or is that care? Her hand closed around a scalpel off the nearest tray. He pressed a palm flat against his own chest, right over the glowing patch. Don't worry, this one's different. Takes its time, like a body decomposing while the mind's still awake. Then he laughed, sudden and genuine, like it was the funniest thing he'd ever said. Her back hit the corner of the room. Nowhere left to go. The eyes, he whispered. The ears. The nose. The lips. He doubled over and vomited a pool of dark blood onto the floor, looked down at it, laughed again, and lifted his eyes back to hers. T-H-E face. He ran at her. She screamed with everything she had left as his full weight slammed into her, and she noticed, even in that moment, that it was lighter than it should have been, getting lighter by the second. He slid down her body and dropped to the floor with her, barely conscious, his breathing shallower with every second, further apart each time. His hand found her elbow, but the grip was already weak. His body jolted once, twice. He looked up at her face, just looked for a long moment, with an expression she still can't put a name to and doesn't want to try. Finish, he gasped. It, please. She drove the scalpel into the center of that pulsing green light. His eyes closed. A single tear ran down his face. He was smiling when he died. She only remembers pieces of what happened after. Staff flooding into the block. Dr. Mala arriving within minutes, like he'd been waiting somewhere close by. A hand on her shoulder. And right before everything went dark, she saw Rafiq standing at the far end of the ER, watching. The official report was clean. A delirious patient with an undiagnosed heart condition attacked a nurse, who defended herself. Police confirmed it and closed the case within a week. The security guard had been asleep and got fired. The duty doctor had been on a coffee break and wasn't present for any of it. The ER's cameras had a technical malfunction that conveniently started 4 minutes before the man walked in. There was no mention of green skin anywhere in the medical file. No mention of a glowing heart. Just a textbook case of cyanotic heart disease and a note about a possible undiagnosed psychiatric condition typed in bold. The other patients on the ward that night, the ones who'd seen the green and come running when she screamed, were never found again. Poor, likely homeless, easy for a hospital and a police report to lose track of. 2 nurses working the neighboring blocks that night resigned within the week, citing unsafe working conditions. Their phone numbers stopped working shortly after. She was given 30 days of paid leave and never once asked to give a statement. The hospital took care of it, she was told. That's why she wraps her face now. That's why she won't let a single camera near her. She has theories about everything, about what those patients were actually dying from, about what her hospital's parent company is really using that building for, about what Rafiq's real job is. She's been carrying those theories alone for 6 months, and they're getting heavier every day. But her shift starts soon, and the workload hasn't slowed down. If anything, it's picked up again, ever since the same illness came back to the city. Except this time, the patients aren't turning blue. They're turning pitch black, and they're not taking 2 hours to die anymore. The current average is 22.5 minutes. She knows the exact number because Dr. Mala still times every single one of them. Right in front of her. He doesn't even bother hiding it anymore. If a story like this ever happened to you, or you've ever had a job that asked you to look away from something you shouldn't have, tell me about it in the comments. I read every single one. And if you want more true stories like this one, subscribe and turn on notifications, because there's always another shift about to start.